All right, guys. Now we're just going to go on and do some more examples. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the bottom half, you only see these two right now, but in the bottom half, we're going to write the inequalities for graphs. So we're going to solve these inequalities and graph them, and then we're going to write inequalities, compound inequalities for these given graphs. So with that said, let's go. Okay, so what we want to look for is, what are we working on? Let's identify them. This one tells me it's an or. This one tells me it's an and. So I'm going to look for overlap. Ands always have overlap. This one doesn't tell me directly, like that one, but because it's got two inequalities pointing in the same direction, they're both pointing to the left. That's my finger pointing to the left. Then we know that this is an and. Okay, and we need to look for overlap. Okay, it's an and we need to look for overlap. Okay, and this one is an or. So let's get started. We know what we're doing now. I'm just going to take the first one and solve the first one for n. So my first move is to subtract 2 from both sides. Okay, now I get n is greater than -9. All right, I know what that is. Okay, or now I want to divide by -4 and -4. Ding, 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 bells should be going off, right? What does that mean? That means that I need to flip my inequality. Okay, so we're going to end up flipping this guy. -4 divided by -4. Let me get my hand out of the way, big fat hand. -4 divided by -4 is +1n. And now what I'm going to do is flip that inequality, and I'm going to get 5. Okay, so I'm highlighting for your understanding. We flipped the inequality. Now, I have two inequalities, right? So I'm going to draw myself a number line. I'm going to put 0 down. I'll go -5, and then I'm going to go right here, -9. And I'm going to go 5 right here. Okay, so if you look at these two inequalities on the or, one's pointing to the right and one's pointing to the left, which means one of my arrows is going that way and the other arrow is going that way. There's going to be overlap. So what I'm going to do for graphing is, this is an open circle, so I'm going to put an open circle here. I'm going to make my arrow that way. This is an open circle here, and I'm going to go that way. Okay, so watch this. Let's talk about something for a second. -9, if I plug it in, -9 is greater than -9 is not true, is it? That's why it's an open circle. However, is -9 less than 5 true? Yes, it is. So now this guy gets colored in indirectly, and this guy gets colored in indirectly. The reason is when I plug in 5, this side is false. 5 is not less than 5. It's equal to 5. But 5 is greater than -9. So what did I say earlier? I said if we have overlap on an or, then we have the solution set is all real numbers. All real numbers. Okay? So you can have infinite solutions, all real numbers in inequality work. There is an example of it. All right. All right, let's do our and. Okay. So this is not written as a sandwich, so I'm going to work them both individually, but then I'm going to look for overlap when I graph it. All right. So put my line down the middle. -2, -2. Add down. N is greater than -9. I didn't flip my inequality because I didn't multiply or divide, I subtracted. And, okay. Line down the middle. What are we doing? We're going to divide both sides by -4. And you're right, we need to flip. Flip that guy because of that guy, right? So this becomes n. This is no longer greater than, it's less than. This becomes 5. Okay? Just trying to stay uniform here in what I'm highlighting and not. We flipped those because of the division by a negative number. So once again, I'm going to make a number line. Okay? 0 in the middle, 5 here, -5, -9. N is greater than -9 would be an open circle, and it would go this way. N is less than 5 is an open circle, and it goes to the left. What are we looking for? We're looking for this overlap. So it stops there, and it stops there. Okay? What I'm going to do is open circle -9 and open circle 5. Okay? Any number I pick in here will satisfy both inequalities. Okay? -5 is greater than -9 is true. -5 is less than 5 is true. Okay? Now, what if I choose -9? -9 is not greater than -9. That's not true. But this one, it is true. But it doesn't satisfy both. And an and has to satisfy both inequalities. That's really important, guys. Okay, we're doing great. Let's keep going. So this is sandwiched. So I'm just going to put a line down the middle. And let's think about this. If we do our verbal unscrambling or undoing, it says divide by 4 and add 1. Divide by 4. I'm sorry. Let me restate that. I feel so stupid. Divide by 4 and subtract 1. So we're going to add 1 and multiply by 4. Add 1 and multiply by 4. So let's get started. +1, +1, +1. -5 less than or equal to p over 4 less than 4. Okay? I'm going to write that 4 a little bit better. I don't like the way it looks. 4. That's not much better. Okay. Now, I didn't flip signs because I added. But now I'm going to multiply. I'm going to multiply by 4 to get rid of the 4. So I'm going to multiply this side by 4. I'm going to multiply this side by 4. Okay, did I multiply by a negative? No. Do I flip? No. So 4 times -5 is -20, less than or equal to p less than 16. Look how far apart these numbers are. This is why I've been doing my number lines with less numbers. I'm not going to make 30, 40 tick marks. I just don't want to do that, and I know you don't either. So if it is easier, you can break this up, and you can write it as p is greater than or equal to -20, and p is less than 16. You may need to do this, but let's see if we're really starting to catch on. My key numbers are -20 and 16. And notice, -20 is smaller than 16. It's on the left, it's on the right. So I'm going to make a number line, like so. I'm going to call this -20. I'm going to call this 0. I'm going to call this 16. Now, here are my key numbers. X is everything in between. But is this open or closed at -20? It's closed. Is this open or closed at 16? It's open. Now, I want to just finish this, but I'm going to show you something. If I do this like I've been doing up here, if I graph this one and then that one above the line, watch what happens. I get a closed circle, and it goes that way. I get an open circle, and it goes that way. And I look for the overlap. If I have a sandwiched inequality, I look at this inequality, and I make that closed. I look at this, I make it open, and I go just like this. Ooh, bada bing, bada boom, done. Okay? All right. So once we start to understand the concepts, life might get a little bit easier. Okay? It's probably a little confusing, but you got to just trust me in knowing that it's going to get easier. Just like everything else we do in class, the more we rep it and the more we work at it and try to understand it, the better off we do. Okay, so this is an or, so I'm going to work the left side first, then the right side. So I'm going to put my line down the middle. I'm going to start by subtracting 7, okay? Both sides. Negative p is less than or equal to negative 5. I don't have p, I have negative p. So I'm going to divide by negative 1. You could multiply by negative 1. I'm going to end up with p and 5, but yes, I have to flip, okay? So it was going to the left, now it's going to the right. I'm not going to right flip this time. I'm just going to highlight because this means, hey, I flipped it. It's important. Okay? Or. Let's just know that it's an or. Put the line down. This is add 1, divide by 4. So add 1, divide by 4. Undone is multiply by 4, subtract 1. So multiply by 4, multiply by 4. It's not negative, so I don't flip. P plus 1 is less than 4. Now I subtract 1 and subtract 1. P is less than 3. Okay, so 3 is smaller than 5. I could also write it like this. P, this is an or. Now I'm going to put the or in there. P is less than 3 or P is greater than or equal to 5. Doesn't matter if I write this one first or this one, but this reads and looks better to my eye because 3 comes before 5. So now I'm going to make my number line, and they're both positive, so this is now going to be 0. This is going to be 3, and this is going to be 5. Okay? Just because we've been doing it this way, let's continue. How do I graph just that? Above the line would be an open circle, and to the left. How do I graph just that? It would be a closed circle, and to the right. No overlap, but we don't need to worry about overlap. It's an or. Ors do not need overlap, okay? Ors just mean the solution set for ors are just when it satisfies one or the other. In this case, you will never satisfy both of them at the same time. So my graph looks like this. Wow. So if you look at these 4 graphs, and then you look below, looks pretty similar, doesn't it? These look pretty similar. Okay, so let's try to identify what type of graphs these are based on the look of the graph. What's the big thing I've been talking about? Look for overlap. And when we have overlap, what does the graph look like? This or this. So these two are both, you guessed it, and, okay? So those are going to be sandwich inequalities. These two are both ors, okay? So now we have 2 ands and 2 ors. If it's an or, for ors, I'm just going to write 2 inequalities. Okay? With or in the middle, all right? So how would you write this guy? You would say x is less than or equal to, because it's closed, -5. And you would write this one to be x is greater than 1. So x is less than or equal to -5, or x is greater than 1. Done. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay? So I taught you something up above. Oh, I don't need to move it up. I taught you something on this guy when graphing. Okay? Well, we can apply it here. There's 2 ways to do compound inequalities that are ands. One is you can draw 2 graphs, open closed. You can do that. Or you can just go like this. -6, 2x. This is less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. It's either or. And this is where you just have to think. You have to think. Is x less than or is x greater than? It's greater than. So it points at the x, opens towards the x, not points. Points towards x equal -6, or the -6. This one has to point in the same direction, but it's greater than or less than or equal to. And the reason is that x, now covered up, x is less than or equal to -2. That's this graph, isn't it? Now cover this side up and read it from the x. X is greater than -6. That's this guy. So what I'm trying to get you to see is, if it's an and, once you master the concept, you're going to say, wow, that's really easy, because it's not so bad. So I'm going to give you a moment, and I want you to try to do this 1, 3, and 4 on your own. So I'm going to wait a couple moments and see if you can do it. Remember, bring these two numbers down, leave yourself some room. I left plenty of room. Put the x in the middle, and then determine the inequalities. Write these two, and then just write them down here as an or. Go ahead. I'm going to give you about 20, 25 seconds. I guess I should have said, instead of dead silence, pause the video. Okay? Because I'm going to go ahead and do it. Pause the video. Try it on your own. If you did it, then you have, hold on, fixing my pencil. I'm going to bring the 0 down. I'm going to bring the 4 down. Put x in the middle. If I just start here, x is greater than, not greater than or is greater than or equal to, because it's closed. I almost misstated that. And this one is less than. And we are done. Okay? This one, I'm going to write or to begin with, and I'm going to write this inequality first. And I can see that it's x is less than 1. And this one is x is greater than or equal to 7. And I'm done. And that's it, folks. Your homework, both assignments, Math Excel and worksheet, are due on by Sunday at midnight. I wouldn't dally. I wouldn't mess around. I'd just get it done, knock it out, be done for the week. That's what I'm doing for next week's lessons. I will post them next Monday. They will be available next Monday. They'll be posted before then. Remember to do your daily exit slips. That's how I take attendance. I'll let you know when we have a quiz coming up or a test. We are going to have our test on Math Excel, our semester final. Miss you guys terribly, man. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.